I'm a front-end developer, and I'm sort of doing more and more UX stuff at the company that I work for. There's no UX person directly. So what sort of resources would you suggest, either the internet or different groups, to actually, I guess, learn more about it? Like you mentioned that it was sort of in your blood, and I get that it's more of a set of feelings that you approach to the interface, but what would you suggest in terms of the nuts and bolts of actually improving the skill of what you're doing?
So it's really interesting you mentioned that you worked with an actor. I used to work in theatre, so I used to be a stage manager and didn't work in tech at all, and ended up making the transition in my kind of mid-20s. And realized that I completely needed to submerge myself in the industry, really similar to the quote that you put up earlier. I had to submerge myself in the industry to really understand what was going on. So I found meetup groups phenomenally useful. Places like this evening, really, really good. The startup community is great. People are really open and collaborative and really share what they're working on. And they, like, every Friday they'll go and do demos and things like that. And it's really interesting to see the process that they go through. Can I just check something before I say this? Would anyone mind, if you're happy to do this, raising your hand if you've done the GA course in UX? Great. Is anyone here actually from General Assembly? Okay. So I have some quite strong opinions on this, so please forgive me. The course that General Assembly do in UX is really interesting. It's a very recent thing. UX now dominates in tech. If you add UX to your job title, you can like double your pay packet. So people are getting really excited about this UX thing. Unfortunately, I don't think that a 3-month course that costs more than a master's turns you into a UX designer. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest that that's the best route to go down if you're looking to transition into UX. It will help you understand the basics, but at the end of it, you won't be able to walk out and get a role as a UX designer. I would suggest if you were currently kind of trying to test the waters, there's some cheaper ways or even some free ways to do that. So Coursera does some really lovely courses online which help you build a portfolio. And it takes you through the kind of UCD, and you can start to understand the process that a UX designer would go through. So I would, I'd also recommend like working out how do you learn. I learn from people and talking to people. So for me, courses and meetups make most sense. Other people learn from books. So books are, you know, that's another, books and blog posts is another place to go.
I've got a lot of UXs that have come from UI dev. So, and it's a fantastic skill. Like, it's one of those things that somebody who's made that transition, they're usually pretty good. Like, they've got a really good understanding of the tech possibilities, and they've made the transition because they just don't want to, they want to help drive the design as well. They just don't want to be told kind of this is what we're going to do, right? So that's why a lot of them have stepped in, or they've had to implement things they just weren't happy with. So I think one of the key things that I'd be trying to get on testing sessions, like going, like if you've got UXs where you're working currently now, can I tag along? And usually a UXer, somebody who wants to come with you, it's like, sure, that you're coming with me, you're my new buddy, and do type and take notes. So it's basically go out on as many testing sessions as you can. And what I'd be saying is, you know, what are their plan, like what's their testing plan that they're doing, and what are the key tasks and stuff that they're trying to test. And you go through that interface and say, what would your perspective be if you were doing that? And then hear what people say, like real people who are doing it as they're testing. So just the grounding of hearing how people are using an interface and interacting with that just changes your perception, and you just become a better UI developer, a better UXer. So that would be fun to do. I mean, Jared Spool talks about this in a fantastic article about user hours, I think it is. And we're doing that in our teams. Like, the whole team has to be exposed to a certain number of user hours, like across the team. It's not just the UXers. I'd say Lean Startup and Lean UX are fantastic books for anybody to read and understand, because they really condense the principles down for what you want to apply through a development cycle and things too. So just techniques that are coming through there, understanding the start, like lean canvas and those kind of things are really good, because then you're understanding where a product manager's coming from and their perspective, and stuff on, like you're probably doing it, but hypothesis-driven development, really understanding that, how you can take that through and have a perspective for that as well. Because UX is kind of getting broader and broader and broader now. It's not just about designing the interface, it's the research, it's being able to drive what you're testing, all of that kind of stuff. That's probably where I'd go.
Yeah, I like with the Lean Startup book, the conference, Lean Startup Conference, I guess, .com, is a really great resource. There's a lot of videos from past conferences as well, and I would say that that's actually hands down the best product design, UX, whatever. That's the best conference that you could actually go and watch videos for online. Jared Spool, like user interface engineering, that's a really great learning resource as well. There's so much great stuff online. It does depend on, I guess, how you like to learn as well. It's fantastic to have face-to-face conversations. Just reach out to people in the local community, look to have coffee, breakfast, whatever with them. Everyone's super friendly, so don't be afraid. What else was I going to say? I think it's gone.
And I think the other one I'd have is design something, right? So you've got the skill to actually put something out there yourself, right? So I'd be either you do it yourself and you've just got some idea and you put it up, and so there'll be some randoms who will come to your site, no doubt. And I remember when I did a gig around web traffic, right? And so I was like, well, what do I know about web traffic? So I put a site up to just see how web traffic behaved and what came to you and how you do campaigns and all of this type of stuff. It was one of the best learning experiences. If I hadn't done that myself, I would never have seen how those kind of things work. So lots of charities, and people talk about this, I think they talk about it from General Assembly, go and work for a charity. But there are people, like if you want a purpose thing, there's people just dying for sites out there at charity, just simple things. But if you've gone and put that up, you can put feedback mechanisms in there, like using stuff like Hotjar or any of those to put prompts up and get feedback through, and see where you made mistakes. What would you do differently? Because as a designer, that's the key thing. You're going to start to, it's not just inheriting, you're going to be thinking this end to end, and going through that cycle a couple of times is where you'll just get better and better and better. I said tonight, the only other thing I'd say there too was, I said tonight, the difference I see with people who come from agency to product is they haven't had to go through the cycles of learning the same, right? Like, so in agencies, you do this big work, you set it off and you're on to your next project. And I think the biggest learning for designers come from when you see your stuff out in the wild and you've fucked up. Like, you're like, that's not what we thought at all. What are they doing? Why are they using it that way? That's what they were meant to do. Blah, blah. And you're like iterating. That's where you get really good with design, because you've learned what you've done wrong and you think, okay, how do I fix this? And that's where you get better and better. If you're always just putting something out and never have to think whether it was right or wrong and the learnings from there, it's a very different perspective.
So tangentially, to add on the end, I'm going to make this a call to action for all of your portfolios. I see a lot of portfolios, actually recruiters in the room, you can tell me off, but I see a lot of UX portfolios where people put up screenshots of wireframes. UX seems to have this really weird myth that all we do is make wireframes. I haven't made a wireframe in years. Like, I really don't think that's where we're at. And the whole point of UX is the thought process and the process that you go through to come to your solution. So coming up with a portfolio that is a series of wireframes undermines the work that you have done to generate that. So I would challenge all of you to create a portfolio where either you have no wireframes or your wireframes are like 1% of the information that you show in your portfolio.
Sorry, I thought of the thing I was going to say before. So not only, if you're looking to get more into UX, I would say not only all this advice is great, but a big part of being a good UXer or designer is facilitation. And so in a current role, I would jump at any opportunities to brush up on your facilitation skills as well, because in the role of a UXer, you're going to be needing to, I guess, really bring a lot of people on your journey with you, collaborate, run brainstorming sessions or focus groups or whatever the hell it is. Like, that is a key skill, and it's a soft skill that you can only really get better at through a lot of practice.
And the tip I'd have if when you're starting somewhere or doing something, right, and this is probably the thing I see people make the greatest mistakes with, they'll start somewhere and they'll go, oh, this is shit. And you're with a group often of people who've worked on that a long time and they're like, thank you. And thank you for your learned opinion. But the other thing there too, right, is design doesn't happen by one person. So often what you're seeing, if it's bad, is the outcome of lots of paws that have been on that thing and diluted it through the vision. And often that person isn't happy with the outcome either. So what I'd say is if you are getting into a new gig or a new role or whatever, hold back on opinion and kind of learn where everything kind of sits. Because it's the one thing, like I see people all the time come in and straight away they're trying to opinionate and they're like, oh, this is shit and we could do this so much better and stuff. Understand what was the design and the reasons that went into that situation in the first place, because again, it's being empathetic. It's about saying, okay, how did they kind of arrive at this situation? That was probably the tip I wanted to give people, because it drives me crazy.